Hello, friends. In this video, we want to share the stories of people who have recently left this world. Their lives and legacies deserve to be remembered, and we hope you will discover something meaningful about them today. Before we begin, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Now, let's get started.
Died on September 11, 2025. Ted Goveia was a Canadian football executive whose life was defined by dedication, vision, and a deep love for the sport. Over several decades, he climbed from university coaching and scouting to lead roles in the CFL. He is best known for helping build championship teams in 2012, 2019, and 2021, and in December 2024, he achieved a personal milestone when he was appointed general manager of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, a position he often described as his dream. Born June 5, 1970 in Burlington, Ontario, Ted grew up in a tight-knit family enriched by immigrant heritage. Football found him early. His years playing for the Mount Allison Mounties, 1991 to 1993, grounded his understanding of what teamwork, toughness, and commitment meant. After finishing school, he turned to coaching in the Canadian university system, assistant and coordinator roles, gaining experience not only in strategy, but in mentorship, leadership, and helping young athletes grow. He then moved into the professional ranks, working first in scouting and player personnel roles in the CFL. His reputation for knowing how to spot talent, build balanced rosters, and foster winning cultures grew steadily. The Grey Cup wins in 2012, 2019, and 2021 were not just trophies, but validation, confirmation that his approach, hard work, attention to detail, and investing in people could transform teams. His final chapter as GM of the Tiger Cats was short but deeply meaningful. He embraced the job with energy, passion, and a determination to leave things better than he found them. His leadership style was defined less by flash and more by integrity, humility, and commitment to the players and staff under his care. Ted Goveia will be remembered not just for the championships, but for the work ethic, the integrity, and the humanity he brought to every role. His passing leaves a void in Canadian football, yet his legacy lives on in the teams he built, the athletes he mentored, and in the passion he inspired in the sport he loved.
Died on September 12, 2025. Archbishop Eusebius Joseph Beltran left this world as a man whose life was marked by quiet strength, humility, and a deep love for the people he served. For decades, he guided the Catholic Church in Oklahoma, first as Bishop of Tulsa and then as Archbishop of Oklahoma City. Remembered above all for his compassion toward the poor, the sick, and the forgotten, and for leading not with power, but with the heart of a pastor. He was born on August 31, 1934, in Ashley, Pennsylvania, the fifth of 9 children in a family shaped by both immigrant roots and faith. His father, a Spanish coal miner, and his mother, of Polish heritage, instilled in him resilience and devotion. When illness forced his father from the mines, the family moved south, and Eusebius grew up learning the value of endurance and the importance of trust in God. Drawn to the priesthood from a young age, he studied at St. Charles Seminary in Philadelphia and was ordained, with a desire to serve as a missionary. As a priest, he became known for his tireless outreach. He opened doors for unwed mothers, cared for the homeless, and, at a time of fear and stigma, personally ministered to those suffering from AIDS. His vision of priesthood was always rooted in presence, to stand beside those who had no one else. In 1978, he was appointed Bishop of Tulsa, bringing youthful energy and approachability to his new role. 14 years later, in 1993, he became Archbishop of Oklahoma City, where he guided a growing and diverse community. He supported Catholic schools, encouraged vocations, and worked to ensure that Hispanic Catholics and newcomers felt welcomed in the church. One of his lasting contributions was advancing the canonization cause of Father Stanley Rother, the Oklahoma priest martyred in Guatemala, a mission Archbishop Beltran pursued with devotion, seeing in Rother's life a model of holiness for his people. After retiring in 2010, he remained close to the flock he loved, offering counsel, prayer, and quiet encouragement. Those who knew him recall his warmth, his kindness, and his willingness to listen. His death is felt as the loss of a gentle shepherd who never sought recognition, but gave everything to his calling. Archbishop Beltran will be remembered with respect and gratitude for his steady leadership, his compassion for the vulnerable, and his unshakable witness to faith. His memory lives on in the communities he served and in the countless lives touched by his pastoral heart.
Died on September 12, 2025, Jack Tupper Daniels, at the age of 92, left behind a legacy that reshaped the way the world thinks about running. Known widely as the world's best running coach, he bridged the gap between science and sport, making physiology understandable and training practical for athletes at every level. His book, Daniel's Running Formula, became a Bible for countless runners, and his VDOT system gave athletes a clear way to gauge fitness and set paces with precision. To many, he was not only a coach, but also a mentor, a scientist who believed that progress in running could be measured, guided, and achieved with patience and discipline. Born on April 26, 1933 in Detroit, Michigan, Jack moved with his family to California as an infant. His early years were defined by curiosity and athletic energy. Swimming was his first competitive outlet, but his career soon shifted as he discovered the multidiscipline challenges of the modern pentathlon. After studies at the Colorado School of Mines and the University of Montana, from which he graduated in 1955 with degrees in physical education and mathematics, Daniels served in the U.S. Army in Korea. His time in service, and later his experiences training as a pentathlete, pushed him to seek answers about human performance. Representing the United States, he earned a silver medal in the team pentathlon at the 1956 Melbourne Olympics and a bronze at the 1960 Rome Olympics, proof of his determination and versatility. It was through running, one element of the pentathlon, that Daniels found his true passion. Wondering why some athletes excelled where others faltered, he pursued graduate study in exercise physiology, completing a master's degree at the University of Oklahoma and later a PhD at the University of Wisconsin. He became a scientist of endurance, measuring oxygen uptake, testing athletes at altitude, and designing workouts that balanced stress and recovery. Over the decades, he coached at institutions such as SUNY Cortland, where his teams and athletes collected national titles, and he personally guided Olympians who carried his methods to the world stage. Jack Daniels will be remembered as more than a medalist, more than a coach, and more than a scientist. He was a teacher whose insights helped generations of runners understand not just how to train, but why training worked. He made the complex clear. He honored the athlete in every person, and he left a mark on the sport that will endure in track lanes, cross-country trails, and city marathons alike.
His passing is felt deeply, but his methods, his wisdom, and his belief in the power of measured effort will live on in every runner who follows the path he lit.
Born on July 30th, 1947, in the quiet Austrian village of Thal near Graz, Arnold Alois Schwarzenegger entered a world still scarred by the devastation of the Second World War. Few could have imagined that this boy, raised in modest surroundings and subjected to a strict and often austere upbringing, would one day become a global icon. He is known to millions as the greatest bodybuilder of his generation, a Hollywood legend whose films defined action cinema for decades, and a statesman who carried the weight of California's highest political office. His achievements are extraordinary. 7-time Mr. Olympia, one of the most bankable actors of the 20th century, and governor of the most populous U.S. state. More than a career, his story became a symbol of transformation, of what determination and relentless discipline can achieve. Arnold grew up in a household ruled by order and high expectations. His father, Gustav Schwarzenegger, served as the local police chief, a man of rigid authority and discipline. His mother, Aurelia, provided warmth and care, but even she could not soften the demands of a life where work and obedience were central virtues. As the younger of 2 sons, Arnold often felt the weight of comparison to his older brother, Meinhard. The environment was not always easy. Resources were scarce, punishment strict, and the future uncertain in a nation still rebuilding from war. Yet, within these conditions, Arnold's character was forged: resilience, ambition, and an unwillingness to accept limitations. As a child, Arnold first gravitated toward sports, particularly soccer, which gave him an outlet for his energy and a sense of teamwork. But around the age of 13, he stepped into a small local gym, and that moment would change the course of his life. The weights, the discipline of training, the transformation of body and mind, all of it struck him like a revelation. He began to train with an intensity that surprised everyone around him. By 14, he was already setting his sights beyond Austria, inspired by images of American bodybuilders like Reg Park, whose photographs he found in magazines. To Arnold, these figures represented not only strength, but escape, a path to a life far beyond the narrow streets of Thal. School could not contain his imagination. Teachers remembered a boy who daydreamed, sketching out visions of himself on faraway stages, restless and hungry for more. Friends recalled a mixture of humor, determination, and bravado, even when his goals seemed absurdly ambitious for a boy from rural Austria. He built makeshift weights at home when the gym was closed, and he mapped out training schedules with the seriousness of a professional athlete. While other boys looked forward to secure jobs or military service, Arnold was already plotting an escape, convinced that his destiny lay abroad. Before he ever stepped into the limelight, before a film camera captured his physique, Arnold Schwarzenegger carried within him the conviction that greatness was possible. He saw bodybuilding not merely as a sport, but as a vehicle, a chance to sculpt himself, to prove that one's origins need not define one's future. The boy from Thal was preparing, quietly and obsessively, for the moment he would step onto the international stage. His life before university or fame was already filled with the seeds of the legend he would become. Discipline born from hardship, ambition fueled by imagination, and a relentless willpower that no obstacle seemed capable of stopping. As Arnold moved out of adolescence and into young adulthood,
The restless dreams that filled his childhood began to take shape in tangible form. By his late teens, he had committed himself fully to bodybuilding, transforming his lean frame into a sculpted figure that drew astonishment in the gyms of Austria. His training was relentless, often lasting hours each day, fueled by a vision that seemed outrageous to those around him. He would not only compete, but he would become the greatest bodybuilder in the world, and eventually a star in America. This was not fantasy for Arnold. It was a blueprint, repeated to himself with such conviction that it guided every choice he made. In 1965, at just 18 years old, Arnold won the title of Junior Mr. Europe, his first taste of recognition on a broader stage. The following year, he captured the title of Mr. Europe, confirming that his relentless regimen and extraordinary willpower were propelling him far beyond the local competitions. His size, symmetry, and charisma stood out, and word began to spread in bodybuilding circles about the young Austrian with impossible ambitions. He soon traveled outside his homeland, stepping into competitions that would bring him into contact with legends of the sport he had once idolized only in magazines. His military service briefly interrupted his training, a requirement for young Austrian men. Even here, Arnold found ways to pursue his passion, sneaking out of barracks to compete, famously being punished after winning Junior Mr. Europe during his service. This story, retold many times, captured the essence of his character. He was willing to risk reprimand, even arrest, in order to chase the dream he believed in. The army taught him discipline and resilience, but bodybuilding gave him identity, and he refused to let anything interfere with that. By 1967, Arnold had made history as the youngest ever winner of the Mr. Universe title at age 20. This achievement not only announced his arrival on the international stage, but also gave him the springboard to pursue the greater dream, America. London became his first base outside Austria, where he trained at the famous gym of Wag Bennett, honing not only his body, but also his understanding of how to present himself, how to speak, how to command presence. Every step was preparation for a leap across the ocean. In 1968, Arnold Schwarzenegger arrived in the United States with little money, limited English, and an unshakable determination. He settled in California, the global hub of bodybuilding, where Gold's Gym in Venice became his new training ground. Surrounded by icons such as Joe Weider and other champions, he quickly adapted, learning English with a heavy accent that he would one day turn into a trademark. The transition was not easy. He worked odd jobs, studied, and struggled with loneliness. But none of these obstacles deterred him. He was convinced that California was where his destiny would unfold. The years that followed cemented him as a phenomenon. By 1970, he had captured the Mr. Olympia title, a crown he would hold 7 times, dominating the sport with an unprecedented blend of size, definition, and stage presence. To audiences, he was more than a competitor. He was a performer with a magnetic confidence that electrified crowds and inspired countless young athletes. His reign in bodybuilding was not just about victories, but about changing the perception of the sport itself, transforming it from a niche pursuit into a global spectacle. This period of Arnold's life, from Europe to America, from a young immigrant with broken English to a champion standing on the Olympia stage, defined his character. It showed the world a man who could turn discipline into art, hardship into drive, and ambition into history. It was the foundation upon which he would build the next, even more improbable chapter, his rise from bodybuilding legend to Hollywood superstar. When Arnold had conquered the world of bodybuilding, holding more Olympia titles than anyone before him, He set his sights on the second, and perhaps even greater challenge of his life, Hollywood. To most, the idea seemed impossible. His heavy Austrian accent, his massive physique, and even his unpolished English were considered obstacles in an industry that valued familiarity and conventional appeal. Yet Arnold, as always, saw not barriers but opportunities. He believed that what others called flaws could become trademarks, that his accent could be iconic, that his size could redefine heroism, that his unusual presence could create a new kind of leading man. The role, physically demanding and mythic, was perfectly suited for him. Audiences were captivated by the sheer scale of his presence on screen. 2 years later, The Terminator, 1984, made him immortal. As the cybernetic assassin, Arnold delivered few words, but every line, especially "I'll be back," burned into popular culture. The film's success launched him into superstardom, and by the late 1980s and early 1990s, he was one of the most bankable actors in the world. This third chapter of his life, his reign in Hollywood, was perhaps the most visible. It transformed him from a niche champion into one of the most recognized faces in the world. He showed that ambition could leap across industries, that discipline learned in the gym could command the screen, and that even an immigrant with an accent could become a symbol of American culture. Arnold Schwarzenegger's rise in film was more than fame. It was proof of his philosophy that dreams, no matter how outrageous, could be willed into reality.